गाइस 2 मिनट वेट। मैम अभी आ रही है 2 मिनट में है।
इसमें और लगा देना। एक तो किसी स्टूडेंट ने 1 मिनट का भी लेट हो, तुमको लगता है अरे यार कब स्टार्ट होगी, अरे यार कब स्टार्ट होगी। एक्चुअली the schedule is around now. Today he makes all the settings ready. Yesterday he was busy, he was not there. तो थोड़ा सा नहीं, he was busy. चलो स्टार्ट करते हैं। Hello everyone. So hope all of you are ready for the session. And yesterday I have finished with the gynae part. Now let us start with the obstetrics part. Obstetrics is equally important as we discussed about gynae. So any queries in the previous session I have taken up? Any queries you have? So most of the topics of gynae we have already done. That is disorders of menstruation, contraception, infertility, ectopic pregnancy, cancers in gynae, endometriosis, adenomyosis, fibroid uterus. Okay, so all that part we have already done. So let us quickly review the obstetrics part and let us just begin. So let us start with the topic of postpartum hemorrhage. Postpartum hemorrhage is very important topic. So we are starting with OBS session, and today's OBS session is part 1, but OBG session it is part 4. See friends, the exam is going more and more clinical, so more questions are asked in the clinical manner. Okay, so let us begin with the complications of third stage of labor, that is the delivery of the placenta. First of all, you have to know what are the guidelines for active management of third stage of labor. This is very, very important, and many exams it has been asked what are the points for active management of third stage of labor according to WHO guidelines. So, number one, there is injection oxytocin. Injection oxytocin intramuscular bolus you have to give after the delivery of anterior shoulder of the baby. So, number one, it is oxytocin which is to be given. Number two, that placental delivery is to be done by controlled cord traction method. Placental delivery is to be done by controlled cord traction method. This important question has been asked in the DNB PG exam 2014. Okay, so the placental delivery is to be done by controlled cord traction method. And number three, there should be a delayed cord clamping. There is a delayed cord clamping. Now, delayed cord clamping is to be done within 1 to 3 minutes of delivery. Within 1 to 3 minutes of delivery, what is the advantage? Advantage of delayed cord clamping is around 80 to 100 ml of blood from the mother is received by the baby. Okay, so that is what is the advantage. Some extra amount of blood the baby is receiving. Some extra amount of blood the baby is receiving. So, injection oxytocin, because advantage is it causes contraction of the uterus and it helps or facilitates the placental delivery. So, in a way, it is a step to prevent postpartum hemorrhage. So, oxytocin has to be given in all the pregnant ladies who have delivered the baby unless until there is a contraindication. Most of the time, oxytocin is safe. Okay. So, it is given intramuscular bolus after the delivery of anterior shoulder of the baby. Then placental delivery is to be done by controlled cord traction method and there should be a delayed cord clamping. So, this is important. Now, what is the amount of blood loss after normal vaginal delivery? Answer is 500 ml. Blood loss after normal vaginal delivery is 500 ml and blood loss after a cesarean section is acceptable around 1000 ml. So this is very, very straightforward questions. 2009 FMG exam. Blood loss after normal delivery is 500 ml. Blood loss after a cesarean section is DNB PG 2014. So this is very, very important. Okay. Now, there is a very, very important question which was asked in FMG exam 2019 December. The question was, a lady has delivered the child and she has developed excessive bleeding. What is the most likely cause for this? She has delivered a child and she developed excessive bleeding. So the likely cause is atonic PPH. There were further statement which was given. Okay, so it is atonic PPH. In the same exam, there was a question that a lady has delivered the child, she developed excessive bleeding and placenta is attached. Placenta is attached. Okay. In case you forcibly do traction of placenta, in case you do forcibly traction of placenta, which complication will occur? Which complication will occur? In case you do forcibly traction of the placenta, which complication is likely to occur? So chat box is open. You can write down your answers in the chat box because it is always an interactive session. I am happy with the reply of Dr. Kapali. She's written it very correctly. If you forcibly try to take out the placenta, because there is no signs of placental separation. Okay. Excessive bleeding has occurred and placenta has not separated. Yes, everybody has written correctly. The answer in this case is it will be acute inversion of uterus. It will be acute inversion of uterus if you do forcibly the traction of the placenta, and your patient will go into shock. Your patient will develop shock. So what I said, two questions I mentioned. A lady has delivered a child and she developed excessive bleeding. The likely cause is atonic PPH. Okay. A lady has delivered the child and there is an excessive bleeding. Placenta is attached. In case you forcibly try to do the traction of the placenta, you forcibly try to do the traction of the placenta, what is the likely complication? Answer is acute inversion of uterus. So the patient can go into shock. Okay. Now remember, this is again an important question from FMG exam, that most common cause for acute inversion of uterus. Most common cause for acute inversion of uterus. The answer is mismanaged third stage of labor. Mismanaged third stage of labor. Okay. Mismanaged third stage of labor. So most common cause for acute inversion of uterus is mismanaged third stage of labor. Okay. Now, postpartum hemorrhage. Simple definition, remember that a drop in hematocrit up to 10%. A drop in hematocrit up to 10% after the delivery. Okay. So any amount of blood loss that affects the general condition of the lady after delivery is postpartum hemorrhage, or you can say a drop in the hematocrit up to 10% after delivery is postpartum hemorrhage. Okay. So postpartum hemorrhage, usually we divide PPH into two categories. One is the primary PPH and another one is the secondary PPH. One is the primary PPH, another one is the secondary PPH. So primary PPH is within 24 hours of delivery if it is occurring, and this is after 24 hours of delivery. After 24 hours of delivery. Now, primary PPH. If the baby has delivered and placenta is attached, that is called as third stage PPH. Third stage PPH, what does it mean? Third stage PPH means the baby has delivered, but the placenta is retained and there is excessive bleeding. So it is retained placenta. It is retained placenta. Okay. So that is what is third stage postpartum hemorrhage. The whole of the placenta is retained. Can you write down what is the management of third stage PPH? Management of third stage PPH. Answer is manual removal of placenta under GA in operation theatre. Okay. So what happens in third stage PPH? Dr. Shibu will be sharing this PDF after my session is over. Okay. So continuously we will be taking up the obstetrics part as I have taken up the gynae part. So today first part of obs, tomorrow second part, and day after tomorrow will be the third part, and it will be finished. So total 8 hours duration session, and most of it is revised, and that is sure shot guarantee the questions will be asked from these sessions because it is just revised before your exam. Definitely the questions are going to come. This is the gist of the subject. Dr. Shibu will be sharing in the NLC Telegram group, and he will be sharing in my OBS Gynae Telegram group as he has shared the other ones. Okay. Daily I am sharing my link only. You can see I have already shared my Telegram link. Okay. So manual removal of placenta under general anesthesia in the operation theatre. Fine. Now, there is a question, and I am deliberately mentioning an AIMS PG question here just to make your preparation the very best. The question is, a lady has delivered a child and placenta also delivered. Okay. 24 hours later, she developed excessive bleeding. So you have to tell the type of placenta responsible for such kind of postpartum hemorrhage. This is secondary PPH. All of you are correct. Now the type of the placenta which is responsible for, because after 24 hours of delivery she developed bleeding. So this is secondary postpartum hemorrhage, no doubt about it. But what is the type of placenta? The type of placenta responsible for such a case is succinate Churita lobe. Succinate Churita lobe of placenta is the extra lobe of placenta. Extra lobe of placenta. Succinate Churita lobe is an extra lobe of placenta which is responsible for such a case. Okay, that is responsible for such a cause. Succinate Churita lobe is responsible for this. Okay, now just have a look at some of the important images. and most of these images I will be showing during the session subsequent. Now this is what the type of maneuver you need to identify. This is the baby has been delivered. Can you see? This is the umbilical cord and this is the placenta, and with one hand there is a traction to like fix the uterus so that to prevent inversion can occur in manual removal of placenta also. So this is when whole placenta is retained. Okay. Now this is Bakri balloon tamponade. This is for compression hemostasis. Bakri balloon tamponade for compression hemostasis. Now this is the succinturita lobe. Can you see? This is the accessory lobe of placenta. This is responsible for secondary postpartum hemorrhage when whole of the placenta is delivered and this lobe remains inside the uterus, leading to secondary postpartum hemorrhage. Okay, so remember, succinturita lobe is associated with secondary postpartum hemorrhage. So I hope about postpartum hemorrhage most of your points have been clear. One important question I want to mention is, prostaglandin E1 tablet is used for atonic PPH. You have to tell me the dose and you have to tell me the mode by which this tablet is to be given. This tablet is to be given. Okay. So dose is prostaglandin E1 tablet is given by sublingual route. The route of administration of prostaglandin E1 tablet is by sublingual route. The route of administration is sublingual route and the dose is 800 micrograms. So this is very, very important. No, 500 is very wrong. And first of all, the prostaglandin is in micrograms. This is a mistake. Those who are writing the milligram, that is very, very wrong. That is very, very wrong. The treatment for secondary PPH is using a curette. Using a curette, do a gentle curettage in operation theatre. Using a curette, do a gentle curettage in the operation theatre. Okay. So I hope you have got it, that what is the dose of the misoprostol in managing the atonic PPH is 800 micrograms sublingual route. Okay, because absorption is faster and action will be great. Okay, so this is about the postpartum hemorrhage and acute inversion. I would like to add one line about acute inversion, that I have mentioned that most common cause is mismanaged third stage of labor. Okay, in acute inversion of uterus, just remember, in case of acute inversion of uterus, just remember that the patient goes in shock. The typical question, the format of question is, a lady has delivered a child and after that she went into shock, and that is out of proportion of blood loss, which is out of proportion of blood loss. Okay, that means she has not lost so much of blood, but she has gone into shock. So what is the cause of this shock? Okay, so answer for this situation is acute inversion of uterus. It is not postpartum hemorrhage, because postpartum hemorrhage, the cause is blood loss. So what is the cause of shock in this case? It is a neurogenic shock. Two type of shock occurs in acute inversion: neurogenic, because uterus is out, so the pedicles get stretched out. Number two is hemorrhagic shock. Number two is hemorrhagic shock. But here it is neurogenic shock which is more pronounced in this case. But also remember, the cause of death in this case is hypovolumic shock. The cause of death in this case is hypovolumic shock. So this session usually covers the PG questions as well as the FMG, but this session is specially planned for keeping in mind the needs of the FMG students. This is the last moment revision, you have to do it. Okay, and definitely 100% sure shot that questions will be asked in this. Maybe the language of question changes, but the answers will remain the same. So the cause of death is hypovolumic shock, but shock immediately occurs, that is out of proportion of blood loss, that is a neurogenic shock, and the cause for this is acute inversion of uterus. So remember this. Fine. This PDF you will definitely get it. Fine. Dr. Vipul, you have to check your internet connection because I am visualizing the tablet as well as my mobile. There is no lag. There is no lag in the session. Okay. So 3 places I am just visualizing. There is no lag. So please check it from your Wi-Fi or internet connection. Okay. So let us take up acute inversion PPH. I have covered up. Let us take up PIH, which is again very, very important. Tomorrow's session, I will take up abortions topic, twins topic, MTP topic, etc. Okay. So PIH, pregnancy induced hypertension, everybody knows that. Okay. The topic actually is hypertensive disorders in pregnancy. Hypertensive disorders in pregnancy. If you see from the textbook, the topic is hypertensive disorders in pregnancy. Just quickly go through the classification part, because nowadays the questions are being asked on classification part. Gestational hypertension. Quickly, just remember, blood pressure is developing more than or equal to 140/90 on 2 occasions taken 4 hours apart. Blood pressure more than or equal to 140/90 on 2 occasions taken 4 hours apart. And remember, this blood pressure is developing after 20 weeks of pregnancy. A straight question asked in FMG exam 2018 and 2019. The blood pressure in gestational hypertension is developing after 20 weeks of pregnancy. And remember one more point, that there is no proteinuria. There is no proteinuria. This is important. Gestational hypertension means because of pregnancy she is developing hypertension. Okay, because of pregnancy she is developing hypertension and there is no proteinuria. Okay, and blood pressure comes down to normal within 3 months of delivery. Blood pressure comes down to normal within 3 months of delivery. This is important. Okay. Then next category is pre-eclampsia and eclampsia. Pre-eclampsia and eclampsia. So remember, in pre-eclampsia there is blood pressure and there is proteinuria and developing after 20 weeks. Okay. But nowadays proteinuria is removed from the criteria, because without proteinuria there can be severe preeclampsia. Okay, so to differentiate a mild and moderate, it is the end organ damage which is important, like kidney damage, like ophthalmological changes, like blurring of vision, headache, the blood markers, kidney function test, liver function test, they are more important than proteinuria. Okay, now eclampsia. Eclampsia means convulsions occurring. It is convulsions occurring in preeclampsia patients. And what type of convulsions? GTCS convulsions. Generalized tonic-clonic seizures. Generalized tonic-clonic seizures. Okay. Then number three category is the chronic hypertension. It is chronic hypertension. Chronic hypertension is blood pressure is present in less than 20 weeks of pregnancy. From the beginning of pregnancy, she is hypertensive. Okay. And there is no proteinuria. There is no proteinuria. Okay. So there is no proteinuria, and blood pressure even after delivery will not come down to normal. Fourth category is chronic hypertension superimposed by preeclamptic changes when proteinuria is added. So chronic hypertension superimposed by preeclamptic changes. Okay. Now let us take up an important question of FMG 2019 December, that a lady is brought to the gynae casualty. A lady is brought to gynae casualty. Her blood pressure is high, 180 by 110. And there is history that she had thrown 5 fits at home. Now her blood pressure is 180 by 110 and she has thrown 5 fits at home. Okay. What is your next line of management? What is your next line of management? Okay. Number 1, you will give labetalol. Number 2, you will give magnesium sulfate. Number 3, you will give labetalol plus magnesium sulfate both. Number 4, you will take this patient for immediate cesarean section. So there is a lady, she has been brought in the casualty with blood pressure 180 by 110. She is, according to the history, 8 months pregnant and she is a primi gravida. She is 8 months pregnant and she is primi gravida. BP is 180 by 110. She has thrown 5 convulsions at home. What is your next line of management? Are you going to give labetalol? You are going to give magnesium sulfate. You are going to give labetalol and magnesium sulfate, or you are going to do immediate cesarean section. Keep on writing your answers in the chat box. I am simultaneously reading your answers because it is an interactive session, and deliberately I am adding because OBS is too vast to be covered up. So what I am trying is I am covering the important key points, short notes and the latest MCQs of FMG exam. Okay. So this is going to benefit you. So labetalol and magnesium sulfate because it is eclampsia and you need to control the blood pressure and you need to control the convulsions. So answer is labetalol and magnesium sulfate. There is no doubt about it. Okay. There is no doubt about it. Now, what is a drug of choice for hypertension in pregnancy? Drug of choice for hypertension in pregnancy, always remember labetalol. What is labetalol? Labetalol is alpha beta blocker. Now, why it is the first choice nowadays? Because its onset of action, is fast. Onset of action is fast. It is no teratogenic effect. It has got no teratogenic effect. It is well tolerated and results are very, very promising. Plus, you can give it oral or IV, both. So, drug to treat hypertension in pregnancy is labetalol. Okay. It is an alpha plus beta blocker. The onset of action is fast. There is no teratogenic effect. It is well tolerated, can be given by oral route or by IV route. What is a drug of choice for hypertensive crisis in pregnancy? The first choice is again labetalol. Please do not mark hydralazine as your answer. Hydralazine was used, but hydralazine used to cause sudden hypotension. So in hypertensive crisis also, it is labetalol. There is another question. Now, what is a drug of choice for chronic hypertension in pregnancy? Previously, it was methyl dopa, but now everywhere in PG, the answer has been changed to labetalol. So, throughout pregnancy, labetalol is the drug. Methyl dopa, my friends, has been replaced by labetalol. Okay. Now, the antihypertensive that is contraindicated in pregnancy, everybody knows, that is ACE inhibitors. Angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors, because they cause teratogenic effect. They cause teratogenic effect and they cause placental insufficiency. Placental insufficiency. So friends, ACE inhibitor you can't give in the first trimester because it is going to cause congenital malformations. You can't give it in second or third trimester because it causes placental insufficiency or fetal hypoxia. So you can't give ACE inhibitor in any of the trimesters. So ACE inhibitors like enalapril, like lisinopril, like captopril. So all these ACE inhibitors are contraindicated in pregnancy. Another contraindication, so 5 to 6 times in FMG exam, the questions are being asked on the ACE inhibitor. And also there is another contraindication of ACE inhibitors, that is in 2008 FMG they have asked. What is that? It is bilateral renal artery stenosis. That is a pharma question. Bilateral renal artery stenosis. Okay. Contraindication to ACE inhibitor is bilateral renal artery stenosis. Friends, if I ask you this question, this is a smart series question. Okay. You have to answer it clearly. You have to answer it clearly. Now the question is that in the casualty, there is a primi gravida patient, 8 months pregnant, is brought. Whenever a term is written brought, that means the general condition of the patient is not very good. Okay, is brought in the casualty in unconscious state. In unconscious state, fits, she is throwing fits, and doctor quickly checked the blood pressure. It is 180 by 120. What is your immediate first line of management? What is your immediate first line of management? Students, at this point of time, teaching a theory will not help because theory session I have already completed. This is a last moment revision which is going to benefit you, and do revise from the PDFs that has been shared to you. Okay. Now, the options given to you is you will start magnesium sulfate IV and IM immediately. Number 2, you will immediately switch over to the lower segment cesarean section. Number 3, you will maintain the airway first. Number 4, you will jump onto giving IV labetalol to control the blood pressure first. So this is a clinical format. Maybe the same question cannot be asked, but this is what is a concept based session, so that gynae obs is very, very scoring subject. Okay. And expect around 30 to 40 MCQs of obs gynae out of 300. So around 10 to 15% of your paper is obs and gynae, and it's very scoring. Okay, because the content or the syllabus in obs gynae is limited. If you compare with medicine and surgery, there is super specialization. In gynae, there is no super specialization. There are fellowships. Okay. So what is your answer? Yes, Dr. Lucky, I agree with your answer. Dr. Prem, Dr. Sisodia, Dr. Seher, Mithila, what happened to you? Why you are writing 4 as your answer? Mithila, I know you. You were attending my classes on Unacademy also. So I don't expect wrong answer from you. Dr. Hirani, Dr. Seher, Dr. Sandeep, everybody has written it very correctly. So I'm happy that my sessions are useful to you. Okay. So it is maintain the airway first. Always, always ABC of anesthesia. See, unconscious patient, tongue can fall back and block the respiratory passages. So your patient will aspirate the secretions and your patient will die of aspiration. Your patient will aspirate and she will die. So always call the ward boy to put in a mouth gag so that tongue should not fall back and block the respiratory passages. So always remember ABC, airway, breathing and circulation. ABC, that is airway, breathing and circulation. Okay, like a patient, like I have completed the topic of ectopic pregnancy. A patient comes with amenorrhea, pain, bleeding, fainting. You will straight away take the patient for surgery? No. You have to do the resuscitation first. Okay, you have to do the resuscitation first. That is, start the IV line, arrange the blood. I agree that you do not wait for blood because it is an arterial blood which patient is losing. That is fine, but you are trying to revive the patient from shock before you shift the patient to the operation theater. Okay, and I have told you in your exam they have asked the different types of cannulas. So I'm just showing you one image that is important. This is important. Please go through this slide. This is really important, and I hope it has been covered up in your other subjects. The size of the cannula they have asked in recently 2020 FMG exam. Please make a note. So they have asked in shock. So remember, most of the time in the pediatrics, in the neonatology, newborn baby, yellow color cannula is been put, that is 24 gauge. And there is a drop rate which is maintained in the pediatric or neonatology department. Pediatric drop set is different from adult. In the pediatrics, if after 1 year of age, it is a blue cannula, that is 22 gauge. In most of the adults, we put 20 gauge cannula, that is pink color. So color coding they have asked. 18 gauge is green. When you are transfusing blood, you are managing shock. In gynae, we use 18 gauge. Okay, if there is road traffic accident and it is a crush syndrome and all, maybe they are using 14 or 16 gauge cannula. Okay, so this is very, very important. Okay, so the question was asked, I think on green, so that this is specially I devote this question to the anesthesia, because the fluid management and all and the shock management basically has been taken care by the anesthetist. There was one more important question which I remember, 2020 exam, they have asked that tell an IV drug, that is anesthetic drug they are asking, which is associated with hallucinations. So the answer was ketamine. Ketamine is associated with hallucination. Ketamine is associated with hallucinations. So note this question. This is important. Another important question of 2019 FMG exam, that what is a drug for daycare anesthesia? Write down in the chat box, drug for daycare anesthesia. We use in gynae for MTPs, for DNCs, for taking cervical biopsies, for doing small procedures. Yes, I appreciate your answers in the chat box. It is IV propofol. Very important. Okay. So daycare anesthesia, where we want to do MTP, DNC, cervical biopsies, etc., we prefer the IV propofol. So I've told you in gynae procedures, this drug is used and we require anesthetist. We don't give IV propofol ourselves. It is the anesthetist which are using. Again, all these three questions which I mentioned, the cannula, the ketamine and propofol, is all anesthesia questions. Okay. Now, so I hope the question is clear. In eclampsia, first line of management, remember, is patency of the airway. Now, a question which you will find unless until you have attended my sessions or you have read it somewhere. There was a question, this is an AIIMS PG level question which they have asked in FMG. The question was, what is a drug with least teratogenic effect you will give in case of epilepsy in pregnancy? The drug with least teratogenic effect or anti-epileptic drug with least teratogenic effect in pregnancy, the answer is levetiracetam. Levetiracetam. This question was asked in AIIMS PG and they have asked in FMG exam, and many of the students were not knowing. Those who are writing lamotrigine, especially I am correcting. भाई एक नंबर बहुत बड़ा नंबर होता है FMG एग्जाम में, ऑल ऑफ यू आर अवेयर. ठीक है, you know 149 and you know 150. दोनों में कितना डिफरेंस है FMG में, 149 एंड 150. ठीक है, सो एक एक क्वेश्चन इंपॉर्टेंट है. यस, even a single question is important. Okay, so gyneops may make it a point that 100% all of your questions should be correct. Okay, so levetiracetam, if this is not given, then lamotrigine. In this exam both options were given. But you have to mark your answer as levetiracetam and it is not lamotrigine. Lamotrigine has been taken over by levetiracetam. Okay. Then there was another important MCQ of 2018 FMG exam, which is a most teratogenic anti-epileptic drug. most teratogenic anti-epileptic drug? Answer is sodium valproate. Most teratogenic anti-epileptic drug, answer is sodium valproate. Okay. Important question, 2016 FMG exam. It has not been asked even in the PG exam. The question was drug to be given for raised intracranial tension in pregnancy. Drug to be given for raised intracranial tension in pregnancy. The options are magnesium sulfate, labetalol, number 3, mannitol, number 4, Lasix. Write down your answers in the chat box. Yes, Mithila, Dreamcatcher, Seni, Seher, John, Ahmed, all of you are correct. It is mannitol. What they want to ask you, my friends, they are not asking you to control the blood pressure. They are not asking you to control or prevent convulsions. They are not asking you to prevent or to treat pulmonary edema or congestive cardiac failure. They are asking raised intracranial tension का मतलब क्या है? सबसे पहले तो यही समझना है. Raised ICT, what does it mean? There is cerebral edema. There is cerebral edema. So what they are asking you? They are asking you osmotic diuresis. Osmotic diuresis. Osmotic diuresis is done by mannitol and it is very, very safe in pregnancy also. And raised intracranial tension, you want to save your patient first, na? Baby is always the second priority. Always the safety is the mother first. Okay, priority is the mother first. Then another important MCQ. I decided in most of the ops, the theory part, most of you have completed reading it. Let me tell you what are very important questions. You can't make a mistake in them. Now, what is a drug to treat status epilepticus? Status epilepticus. Status epilepticus is continuous convulsions. Okay. Drug to treat status epilepticus. The options is magnesium sulfate. The options is diazepam. The options is phenobarbital. The option is thiopentone sodium. So your textbook of obstetrics clearly writes thiopentone sodium. There is no differential diagnosis of the answer. Not even a second thought. By status epilepticus is not, they are asking a drug for eclampsia. So magnesium sulfate, diazepam, phenobarbital will all be wrong answers. By eclampsia तो control ही नहीं हो रहा है. She has gone into continuous fits. Like you read status epilepticus, status asthmaticus. So similarly status epilepticus. Okay. So the answer is thiopentone sodium. If you have any doubt, you can cross check the book. Textbook Datta Obstetrics chapter Pregnancy Induced Hypertension, Hypertensive Disorders in Pregnancy. Page number I don't remember, but you can check it if you want the answer. Okay, clearly it is written thiopentone sodium. Now, a very simple and basic question from FMG exam. What is the antidote of magnesium sulfate? Antidote of magnesium sulfate. The answer is calcium gluconate. You know, in pediatrics, the hypocalcemia is very common and it is a cause of convulsions. So, do you know calcium in the children or in the pediatrics or in neonatology has to be given by doctor? Nurse is not supposed to give, because it is to be given very, very slowly, and you have to put your stethoscope onto the heart of the baby, because calcium can cause cardiac arrest. It can cause systolic arrest. So calcium always is to be given by the doctor to avoid any cardiac arrest. Okay, it should be given very, very slowly. Okay, so antidote of magnesium sulfate is calcium gluconate. Okay, so most of the important points I have mentioned it. This is given by IV slowly. This is given by IV slowly. Okay. Now, let us take some important points about the topic of APH, which is antepartum hemorrhage. So, first of all, you have to know hemorrhage in pregnancy. Hemorrhage in pregnancy, hemorrhage occurring in less than 28 weeks is called as abortion, and baby will not survive. Okay, hemorrhage occurring after delivery is called as postpartum hemorrhage. So, what is APH? Hemorrhage occurring after 28 weeks but before the birth of the baby. So, antepartum hemorrhage is bleeding occurring after 28 weeks but before the birth of the baby. So, that is what is antepartum hemorrhage, occurring after 28 weeks but before the birth of the baby. So, you can say first and second trimester bleeding. First and second trimester bleeding is abortion, and chances of survival of the baby is very less. Okay, and third trimester bleeding, that is after 28 weeks, is given the term APH. Okay, third trimester bleeding is APH. Okay, now important questions. So, important causes of APH are placenta previa. Number 2, abruptio placentae. Number 3, vasa previa. So, these are the 3 important causes for antepartum hemorrhage occurring in pregnancy. That is placenta previa, or abruptio placentae, or it is vasa previa, Okay. Now, what is dangerous placenta previa? A question asked in 2014 FMG exam. Dangerous placenta previa is type 2 posterior. Dangerous placenta previa is type 2 posterior. So, type 2 posterior is called as dangerous placenta previa. Now, what is the name of the active expectant management or conservative management in case of placenta previa? Name the expectant management of placenta previa. So what is the answer? Name the expectant management of placenta previa. So the answer is yes, it is McAfee and Johnson's management. That is conservative management. You admit the patient, put her on bed rest, arrange everything, do the maternal and fetal condition monitoring. That means a patient has presented with placenta previa. There is a history of bleeding, but when she comes to you, she is not bleeding actively. But you need to hospitalize your patient, do maternal and fetal condition monitoring. Okay, do maternal and fetal condition monitoring. So that is what is a conservative management for placenta previa, which is McAfee and Johnson's management. Let us take up a clinical question. This is 2015 FMG exam question. There is a 37 weeks of pregnancy. A lady comes with 37 weeks of pregnancy. She is multiparous lady. Multiparous lady, maybe 4th or 5th gravida. And she is bleeding profusely. She is bleeding profusely. And she has an ultrasound report showing central placenta previa. What is your management? I think it is a very, very simple and straight question from your exam. What is your management? 37 weeks, central placenta previa, bleeding profusely. I think everybody will write the answer as immediate cesarean section. And those who write this answer is absolutely correct. There is no conservative management because pregnancy has already reached 37 completed weeks. In high risk pregnancies, we do not continue the pregnancy till 40 weeks. Okay. And there is no wait and watch. Okay. Why 37 weeks? Because lung maturity has been attained completely. Lung maturity has been attained completely. Okay. So immediate cesarean section has to be done. Now let me take up an important question of FMG exam from December 2019. The question was, there is a pregnant lady with 34 weeks of pregnancy. Pregnant lady with 34 weeks of pregnancy. Her blood pressure is 150 by 100. And there is history of fall in the bathroom. There is history of fall in the bathroom. And after that, she developed severe pain, abdomen, and bleeding. What is your likely diagnosis? What is your likely diagnosis? Pregnant lady with 34 weeks of pregnancy, blood pressure 150 by 100, history of fall in the bathroom, associated with severe pain and bleeding. Diagnosis. The answer is, I think everybody is correct. The answer is, it is PIH with abruptio placentae, that is accidental hemorrhage. PIH with abruptio placentae. Okay, fine. So they have asked the diagnosis, PIH with accidental hemorrhage. Now, what is the name of the classification used for clinical grading of abruptio placentae? Clinical grading of abruptio placentae. The answer is Page's classification. The answer is Page's classification. Clinical grading of abruptio placentae, the answer is Page's classification. Okay. Now, there is a pregnant lady, gravida 5, para 3, L3, A0 with 36 weeks of pregnancy. She is in labor pains. She is in labor pains. Blood pressure is 110 by 70. Blood pressure is 110 by 70, and she suddenly developed severe pain, abdomen, bleeding per vaginum, and on doing per vaginum examination, there is receding of station of presenting part, and per abdomen there is fetal heart rate 100, and there is meconium. Can you tell what is this has happened in this case? This is very important. You can get such a big question also, because just imagine that your exam is just going to be like a NEXT pattern exam. So do expect 1 or 2 long questions also. So what is this question? Pregnant lady G5. सबसे पहले G5 का मतलब क्या है? She is grand multipara. Grand multipara में what is the risk? Risk is receding of presenting part. मतलब अगर fetal presenting part +1 station या 0 station पे था, ischial spine. If you know the diameters, you can understand. Receding of the presenting part, severe pain, abdomen, fetal distress, passage of meconium. What has happened? There is rupture of the uterus has occurred because it is grand multipara. No, it is not shoulder dystocia. Baby has not delivered. रिसीडिंग का मतलब क्या है? ऊपर चला गया, यानी कि कहीं ना कहीं यूट्रस रप्चर हो गया. सो आई वांटेड, क्योंकि बाकी सारे क्वेश्चंस एंड टॉपिक्स आपको आते हैं और ये टॉपिक्स जहां पे ऑब्स्ट्रक्टेड लेबर है या रप्चर यूट्रस है, ये टॉपिक्स क्लासेस में कवर नहीं होते. दैट इज व्हाई आई हैव ट्राइड टू गिव यू अ क्लिनिकल क्वेश्चन. आप इसमें ध्यान से देखो. G5 का मतलब क्या? ग्रैंड मल्टीपैरा. uterus is already exposed to so many pregnancies. Okay, grand multipara G6, G7, G8 इन वाले पेशेंट्स में सडनली रप्चर यूट्रस हो जाता है. तो इसमें शी वॉज इन लेबर पेन्स, सडनली देर इज अ सिवियर पेन एब्डोमेन, सडनली बहुत सारा ब्लीडिंग हुआ एंड पर वेजाइनम एग्जामिनेशन में प्रेजेंटिंग पार्ट ऊपर चला गया, यानी कि यूट्रस कहीं ना कहीं रप्चर हो गया है एंड बेबी यहां पे रप्चर हुआ एंड बेबीज पार्ट हैज गॉन इन द एब्डोमेन. ओके, baby's part has gone in the abdomen. So this is how in grand multipara the rupture uterus can take place. So in such situation, history of thigh handling should be taken. History of thigh handling. Thigh handling history is very, very important, because when they cannot manage the case, they dump these patients to the higher center. Okay, so again these questions do come in your exam, and when you tell your teacher you don't remember कौन से questions आए हैं, बहुत सारे questions you don't even remember. Okay, so grand multipara, history of severe pain abdomen, receding of presenting part, suddenly so much bleeding, meconium stain, fetal distress. Normally, what is the fetal heart rate? Normally, the fetal heart rate is 110 to 160 beats per minute. If it is less than 110, we call it as bradycardia, that means fetal distress. If it is more than 160 beats per minute, it is tachycardia, that is also fetal distress. So in this case, fetal distress has occurred, receding of presenting part, she is crying with severe pain abdomen, so it is rupture uterus. Okay, question from FMG exam 2019. What is grand multipara? What is grand multipara? More than fifth gravida is called as grand multipara. Gravida का मतलब क्या होता है? Number of times she is pregnant. When she comes to you, she is pregnant, that is gravida. Number of times she is pregnant, that is called as gravida. It includes the MTPs, live deliveries, stillbirths, live babies, abortions, ectopic, everything is included in gravida. Okay, so that is what is grand multipara means. Okay, more than fifth gravida. Okay, this formula is important for you. Gravida, para, they keep on asking you such important questions. Okay, so remember, in abruptio placentae, in abruptio placentae, in abruptio placentae, it is always termination of pregnancy. There is no conservative management. There is no conservative management, because if the placenta has separated, there is no way that you can implant the placenta back. There is no way that you can implant the placenta back. So it is always the delivery. So termination means delivery. Termination means delivery. In placenta previa, there is a conservative management, but in abruptio placentae, there is no conservative management. It is always the delivery which is important. Delivery is important. Fine. So that is also called as accidental hemorrhage. So there is premature separation of a normally situated placenta. There is a pregnancy, placenta is normally attached, but there is separation of placenta, so there is internal bleeding. So there is retroplacental clot. Retroplacental clot. So once the placenta has separated, you cannot implant the placenta back. Yes, there is so much of tenderness. Remember, there is tense and tender uterus. There is a tense and tender uterus in accidental hemorrhage. So in these cases, questions are mostly asked in clinical format. Okay. Yes, tocolysis you can give depending if she is bleeding, then you can't give. Okay. Tocolysis is to prevent the preterm labor pains, but not in abruptio. It is only in placenta previa cases. Accidental hemorrhage, you have to deliver the case. Accidental hemorrhage, you have to deliver the case. Okay, so we discussed about PIH, APH, PPH and acute inversion of uterus. Okay, so more important topics will be discussed in the subsequent sessions. Stay connected. I will take up the topic of normal labor, where I will be discussing about partogram, some important questions on the stages of labor. Okay, then I will discuss about the twins. One question is 100% asked from the topic of twins. Then the systemic and metabolic changes in pregnancy, anatomy, all these topics I will be covering. Whatever maximum I can, I will cover up in this session. So 2 more sessions I will be taking for obstetrics revision. So it's time for me to end up this session. What is VP? Okay, stay connected, stay tuned, and this PDF of today's class will be shared in the group. So I have already given you my personal Telegram link. In this, Dr. Shibu will be sharing up. So bye-bye, stay connected. Okay.